Podcast. Is Libor Hajek actually good at hockey? We'll see in a minute.
The Liberty Blue Rangers Podcast. With Andrew Chelby and Nick Zararis.
Rangers fans, welcome to the best Rangers podcast in town. I'm Andrew Chelby alongside Nick Zararis, and we are Liberty Blue. We scream about the Rangers so that you can save your voice. That's how deeply we care about you. We appreciate that you've joined us for the ride. This is episode 22, live on Twitch. We will put the full video up on our YouTube, Liberty Blue Podcast, and the audio version will be available as an audio podcast as well. Search Liberty Blue on your favorite podcast platform, and it should be there. Give the show that shiny and illustrious 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps the show out more than you think it does. At Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Chelney Andrew, Chelney Andrew, and that is Nick Zararis, Nick Zararis. Those are our personal Twitter handles to follow as well. Nick, they beat Detroit and Arizona. Aren't you thrilled?
I am not ready to jump off of a bridge or be committed to the grippy sock floor of a mental institution. Let's put it like that.
They beat the bad teams, and they lost to a bad team, and they also lost to the Islanders, in which they had a 3-0 lead. They played well against Nashville. They should have won that game. Just bounces didn't go their way. They once again kept passing it all around the ice as opposed to just shooting, which is going to drive me into that mental institution that you were mentioning just a second ago. Like, shoot the puck. At a certain point, you're not going to score any goals unless the puck goes towards the net. Unless, of course, you're Jacob Trouba, in which case he would shoot 6 feet wide. But, he shouldn't be playing anyway because he's injured. It's November. Don't play him. Gerard Gallant's putting him out there anyway. I digress.
So let's start with the abstract before we move into the game by game. They're still not. It's just not pretty to watch right now. Even last night against Arizona, where they were winning that game, and they took care of business. That game was ugly. That was one of the worst first periods I have ever seen a Rangers team play in my entire life. To only have 5 shots on goal through 30 minutes of ice time against a team that is going to be competing for Connor Bedard is just, it's not acceptable. There are too many good players on this team. Like, even if you're in a rut, even if you're not having shooting luck, it's unacceptable to be playing as poorly as they did in that first period. Granted, they eventually got going. The bounces started going their way, and they were able to pile it on. But right now, my biggest thing with the Rangers is it all kind of seems very fragile and tenuous, where if they don't get the right bounce to go their way in a certain game, it doesn't feel like last year's team where they can keep plugging away and find a way to score. And it's just, they're fighting it so hard on offense right now. Even a 1-goal lead seems pretty insurmountable.
It has been a growing concern this entire season of the Rangers kind of showing up and expecting the goals to just come whenever they so choose. And we talked about this on episodes before this season of just like, they will against Arizona. I think it was against Arizona as well, the last time that they played them, of just the idea that the Rangers seemingly have put out on the ice. Now, whether they are thinking about this when they play or not kind of doesn't matter, because this is what it looks like when they actually play is, this is a bad team. The goals will come. We don't have to put in 100% of the effort because we are so obviously the better team here. So it doesn't matter that we don't score now because we'll score later. And again, do I think that they employ that in the locker room? No, I don't know. But this is how visually it looks like they are playing on the ice when they are playing a team that's not as great as some of the best opponents that they'll face in the NHL. And this is a terrible way of thinking, because you have to beat bad teams to make the playoffs. You have to do it, because if you are only beating the good teams, but you're missing out on points against the bad teams, then it's the same exact thing as if you would be beating all the bad teams but losing the good teams. You're not in the playoffs. You have to beat whoever's in front of you. And for the Rangers to only have 5 shots on goal or whatever it was through half the game against the Coyotes, it's November. It's still, there's a lot of time left, but at the end of the day here, this is the same head coach. This is the same system. This is virtually the same team that they had all of last season and throughout the playoffs. They should not be looking as disinterested as they currently are for long stretches of the game. Now, even against Nashville and all these teams, like, they played well, but ultimately they couldn't get the goals in. And against Arizona, they kind of look like they didn't want to be there for half the game.
So let me start with this. We talked about it a little bit last week in terms of just they don't have a lot of raw finishers. Most of their best players are playmakers. They're good at making other players around them better, setting them up. And this is an argument I got into on Twitter for a lot of August, because as you remember, Andrew, not a lot goes on in the month of August in the hockey community. And I got into an argument with a few different people that the roster in the playoffs last year was more talented than the roster they were going to dress on opening night, whenever opening night finally came. And I think the kid line in the playoffs kind of got everybody's hopes up of, like, even if they split them up, the goals will come. And Kako and Lafreniere were not the problem in the top 6 when they were both playing up there before Gallant put the kid line back together last week. But the goals weren't coming. And last year, God bless Frank Vetrano, he put the puck in the net. They needed somebody who could do that in that role. Andrew Kopp got cold in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he was able to put the puck in the net. Right now, every goal is precious. I mean, they lost to Nashville. They didn't score once. They had 5 power play opportunities. That's the reason they lost, because they're just not getting anything at 5-on-5. And in the games that are close like that, if they're not going to get one on the power play, they're not going to score, because that's just the way this team is. And there aren't any obvious solutions. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the spitball ideas we've seen floating around, and people who suggested ideas based on questions we got. So we'll spitball on that for a second. But before the last thing, before we start, we'll start with the Islander game, because we'll go chronologically. It's just frustrating to watch a team that isn't putting the puck in the net, because there are nights where it just doesn't feel like it's going to go in, like the Nashville game. Neither team scored a goal in that third period. That entire third period, it was a 1-goal game, and the Rangers were chasing it and chasing it and chasing it. They pinned Nashville in their own zone for long stretches of time, but it never really felt like they were going to score. And it's really frustrating when you're stuck like that, because eventually it'll come, but the clock does eventually run out. No matter how well you play, eventually, if you don't put the puck in the net, the game ends.
It's also as if a lot of teams in the NHL will watch demos of you and how you play, and they will watch the tape and they'll go, oh, the Rangers on the power play love to pass the puck around and eventually pass to Zibanejad for the one-timer to score. And if you take that passing lane away, the Rangers have nothing. Because all the Rangers will do is, if that pass doesn't work once, they'll try it again. If it doesn't work again, they'll try it again. And they will keep trying it until the power play is over, and that's that. And that's really one of the red flags that I have for this team right now, is they aren't adapting to what is happening on the ice in that specific situation. If that cross-seam pass isn't going through, stop trying it. Try something else. Try something else. Please. Please, for my sanity, try something else. The entire Nashville game, they kept trying that cross seam, that beautiful play, that one extra pass. Just put it on the net. You can't score unless you take shots on the net. And please hit the net if you do take a shot. Like, it's really just it's strange to me how this team can look so good at some points of the season, and then, like, the very next night, they look as if they're terrified of shooting the puck. They would rather pass it 900 times and go for the highlight reel play, as opposed to, hey, like, Pittsburgh did this for when they won their cups. Pittsburgh loved doing this. We will shoot from anywhere and everywhere, and we'll have all the forwards just clamor and go straight for the blue paint and just and put home any loose rebound that is there. That's how they scored a lot of goals during those cup runs, and just like you. I'm not saying you have to do that every single game, every single moment, but, like, you got to employ some of that, because those passes won't be there every single game.
you need a diverse way to score. You need a variety of options. It's the same thing as we talk about in football, same thing in basketball, where you got to do things to set up other things. And the Rangers only have that one trick where they have the cross seam. They're still not great at engaging a forecheck, forcing the other team into making mistakes. And that's really where we saw the Rangers at their best, especially in the playoffs, were the games where they were able to hold the other team in their zone, hold a long cycle, wait till they got a good opportunity, and then take a shot. Whereas, especially, I would say the Nashville game, it got to a point where they were just throwing the puck from 40 feet away at the net with no chance of going in, no screen, nobody crashing the net. And the thing I would say is it's a combination of bad luck and maybe I don't know if confidence is the right word, but something along those lines where you need a goal, you're pressing a little bit, you're squeezing your stick a little bit harder, you're trying a little bit harder, you're going to be more liable to make a bad turnover, going to be more liable to take a penalty because you're pressing so hard. It would be ideal if we could strike a nice balance between pressing so hard in a game like against Nashville, whereas looking like they were concerned with the 4 o'clock football scores in the Coyotes game, because those guys had no interest in playing in that first period. I get it. You're on a back-to-back. So is Arizona. Granted, Arizona didn't have to travel, but Arizona's on a back-to-back too. There aren't excuses for we're tired, we're hurt. Everybody's tired, everybody's hurt. This is the NHL.
And if you're Jacob Trouba, maybe don't play for like a week or two because you're clearly injured. It's November. Sit out a week. Sit out 10 days at Gerard Gallant, please. Like, this is not the conference finals. This is literally the second week of November as I look to my calendar here because I don't know what day it is. But it's the second week of November here. Like, maybe don't play maybe don't run your top 4 defensemen into the ground in November because you're going to need him come April.
Okay.
So, but I'm not a head
jog
coach
my
in the
memory.
NHL, so what do I know?
You jog my memory about something. You remember Kevin Shattenkirk's first year as a Ranger where he tore his meniscus in November and the Rangers let him play with a torn meniscus through February and he was not very good because he was playing on a torn meniscus all year. They shut him down and then they got rid of him. Don't do that to Trouba because you're stuck with that contract for a lot longer and buying that out. That would be bad if you had to buy out that contract because you ran him into the ground. That would be very bad. And we talk about it all the time. There's a point where trying to gut through something for the team is hurting the team. If you're actively sucking on the ice, that's hurting the team. I'm sure the guys appreciate that you're trying, that you're gutting it out. You're still not helping the team win by going out there and being bad. It's very complicated. It's a nuanced thing to explain, but it's important.
One of the red flags here that we have to address with this Rangers team is that they are playing Jacob Trouba right now on defense despite him clearly being injured because they have nobody else to trust right now that can play at the NHL level. You had somebody in Nils Lundqvist. You traded him away for a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick. Okay, cool. Those picks can't play hockey right now. You don't have anybody that can slot in and play. You don't have anybody in the AHL that can just soak up minutes. What you're going to do, you're going to bring Libor Hajek up to the top 4, which, granted, he hasn't been playing badly, like, at all. He's actually, we'll talk about him in a little bit, like, he's actually been playing pretty well. Like, it's maybe we gotta put some respect on that guy's there because he's looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. There's nobody in the AHL right now the Rangers can bring up to just play hockey on the blue line right now. And that's why they are continuing to put Jacob Trouba out on the ice despite his clearly injured status, and he's not playing the way that he can play. And if you're Chris Drury right now, you don't have a lot of cap space. Like you have to do something because all that's going to happen is Jacob Trouba is going to continue to get worse because of this injury that's not healing. And you don't have a plan B. Okay, well, what if somebody else in the Rangers goes down? What if another defenseman goes down? Now what? Now you're really scrambling to find a warm body to put on the blue line. Like this can't go on for too much longer. Chris Drury has to figure something out and do it pretty quickly.
All right, let's get into the games. The Islander game, So I was at the Devils Flames game last night, watching the Ranger game on my phone, looking up and down at the hockey on the ice and on my phone. And by the time they lost to the Islanders, I was very much just at the point where, like, I want to go home. I'm tired. We got to see if we're gonna have a country in the morning. Like, I was very over it on Tuesday of last week, and just it's so frustrating to consistently lose to the Islanders. I know we talked about this 2 weeks ago after the first time and they got shut out, but the Islanders just give the Rangers fits with the way they play, with the style they play, the types of players they have. And it's maddening because most nights, if you score 3 against the Islanders, that's a good night. The Islanders are a pretty good defensive team. They're not as shut down as they've been in years past, but even against Varlamov, who first decent NHL backup, pretty good backup, to score 3 and lose, that sucks. That sucks.
You can't let up the gas against the Islanders.
Yeah.
Like, this is a team that will wreck you if they feel like you think you've won the game. And they've shown this multiple times already this season where they've come back from third period deficits. If they feel like you are starting to turtle, or you feel like you've already won the game, they will turn a full 180 on you and say, absolutely no, you are not. This is our game. Come back and score 8,000 goals in the third period or overtime and win the game and steal 2 points from you. That's just what they've been doing all of this season. And that's what they did against the Rangers. Like, the Rangers were up. They scored 3 goals. They were dominating for the first half of the game. That was all Rangers. It was all the Rangers and their offense, and they were cycling, and they had possession of the puck for pretty much the entire first half of the game. And then the others said, we're not going to let that happen anymore. And the Rangers let it happen. They let it slip away. The Islanders took control. They dominated the second half of the game, and they never looked back. And you needed a great save from Shesterkin to steal a win, and that didn't happen. And I'm not blaming Shesterkin. It just is what it is. Like, that's one of those games where you need Dominic Hajek in there to literally steal you a win. And that didn't happen. Not to the fault of Shesterkin. Like, hey, if the team played better in front of him for the second half of the game, they would have easily won. But they didn't. They kind of just fell apart. They let the Islanders come back in, and ultimately it was a loss that Rangers never should have had.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. 53% of the scoring chances, 70% of the expected goals, 60% of the high danger, on 3% shooting. That's the issue. Is the finishing is a problem, and it's why I'm once again wearing an Islander shirt on the stream, because I made the same bet, because I figured, come on, they're not going to lose to Varlamov. Varlamov's not very good. But here I am, very much still wearing an Islanders t-shirt on this podcast, because it's better than actually losing money. Just losing your shame. Shame you can recover. Money, unless you earn more of it, you're not just going to get it back like you will eventually get my shame back. Any last thoughts on the Islanders before we talk about Detroit?
Stop throwing, please. Stop throwing. All you need to do is stop throwing, and you will win hockey games. Like, you score 3. Like, this is a team that has had trouble scoring despite controlling play for a majority of games. You score 3 goals. Like, this is your chance to just win a game.
Yeah.
Stop throwing. Like, what are you doing? You need the points. You need them.
Especially against the Islanders, who you are going to be in competition with for a playoff spot.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Detroit, this is the first non-annoying Rangers-Red Wings game in years, maybe since like Obama was president, where it wasn't a 1-goal game on
since
NBCSN.
Dukakis ran for governor.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. Usually those games are 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 that go into overtime, and every Ranger fan is like, how is Jimmy Howard doing this? Jimmy Howard sucks. And they poured it on. They got the secondary scoring. They got goals from guys in the bottom 6. They got a Libor Hajek goal. They got a Gauthier goal. They got a Gaudreau goal. That's the kind of game where you realize the statistical regression that happens, because against the Islanders, they shot 3%. And then against Detroit, they shot 23%. That's the kind of statistical regression that makes hockey so random and so frustrating and, frankly, so entertaining. There aren't sports that have crazy swings like that in terms of game-to-game results, because of the type of outcome you need to get a goal to happen in the NHL. They took care of business. They shouldn't have been in that game. It was a close game. They pulled away at the end of that game, and they poured it on once the floodgates opened. But that was a good way to end the losing streak. I think they had lost 3 in a row going into the Detroit game, so it was a good way to kind of put a kibosh on that. But again, they have to find a way to play like that more consistently, where it is guys from the secondary line scoring, where if you get goals from the third and fourth line, it's really going to lighten the load on the top 6, because that's been the biggest issue this year. When the top 6 doesn't score at 5-on-5, and especially if the power play doesn't score, nobody in that bottom 6 is giving you goals. So to actually get them to get a goal from a defenseman too, that's really helpful.
They need this in more games. And this is Captain Obvious speaking here, but the Rangers need Ryan Carpenter to score a little bit more more frequently. Doesn't have to be every game. Obviously, it's Ryan Carpenter. He's a fourth line center. Like, no one's asking him to score 30 goals, but
9, 10. By the end 10, of the year,
he
10,
12.
He should have.
I mean, just anything realistic that could help the team in moments that they really need one to go in. And Ryan Carpenter scored one, his first as a Ranger last night, and that's awesome. I would like to see him at least be a little bit more involved offensively. And again, like he's the defensive fourth line center. He's not really there to score, but it's always nice when your fourth line can score a goal when you need it the most and put some pressure off of your top 6 who is tasked with scoring every single game when you have Ryan Carpenter. When maybe Sammy Blais wants to score every now and again. Like, that would be really cool because he gets paid more money than maybe he should right now, and he's not scoring a whole lot of goals. Like, maybe if he'd like to get involved, that would be great as well. A sign of a great team is when no matter what line is out there, they are dangerous. You have to watch out for somebody, or maybe even the whole line, to score when the team needs one, or you're not expecting them to score or be dangerous or all of that. For now, the Rangers right now, if their top line isn't out there, if their second line isn't out there, what is Sammy Blais going to score for you? Is Julian Gauthier going to score? He's going to drive to the net and then miss, probably, and that's it. Like, that's your bottom 6, and the Rangers need more from those guys right now.
So you sounded like a faculty advisor in college talking about Sammy Blais, saying he should get involved. You should be doing something. Are you just sitting in your dorm room playing Fortnite and eating Cheetos? You should be in a club, Sammy. You should be in this game. Every time the puck touches his stick, he just looks so uncomfortable. It's jarring because he never gets a pass. Granted, he's not playing with particularly talented players, so he never gets good passes. But like at some point you would think, okay, I'm in the NHL. If this is a bad pass, I need to be able to adapt my body positioning to be able to still play this puck without it being an automatic turnover, which is what happens 90% of the time he has the puck at his feet, is the other team ends up with it because he just doesn't look fast enough. And I get it. He's a big lumbering type guy. If he gets ahead of steam going, he's relatively quick. But body positioning wise, hands wise, the reason the Rangers took a flyer on him, and I was talking about this with somebody a couple weeks ago, I forget who it was. In junior, he had crazy shot rates, like just shooting the puck. He was really good at getting pucks on the net accurately. They didn't always go in, but he was able to generate a lot of offense that way. And the Rangers saw upside of saying, okay, this guy shoots a lot. He's big. We think if we give him a little bit of runway, he might be able to be something a little more than he's been to this point. Whereas with the Blues, not really a top 6 guy. Occasionally got up in that top 6 for the Blues before he got to the Rangers. But he's been frustrating. I got to say it, and I don't know which game we should talk about him in. I think Veazey's been the best bottom 6 guy who wasn't on the kid line, like of Gaudreau, Reeves, Carpenter, Gauthier. I think you got a real argument that Jimmy Vesey's PTO is actually helping them a lot more. I mean, realistically, you get Reeves out, you play a fourth line of some combination of Gaudreau, Carpenter, and Vesey when everybody's healthy. That's not an awful fourth line. And realistically, that should be the goal here. Dress Reeves as minimally as possible. He looks done. He just doesn't have it. It was stupid to give him a 2-year deal last year. I understand that was the only way he was agreeing to be traded here, was to if he got a second year, but he just looks done as a player. Give Vesey Give Gauthier even. You got to keep those guys in there. Carpenter and Gaudreau is fine. You got to give them a wing that can actually do something. I don't think it's Blais. They're stuck with Blais because of the money he's making. I know we got a question earlier that asked, should they try and trade him? The front office, this is their guy. They gave up a real player for him because they thought they saw something in him. They're going to ride him until he sinks. Realistically, I don't think he'll get a qualifying offer after this year if he keeps playing like this. I think he will be with another organization unless he agrees to take a pay cut, in which case I could see him staying. But to be getting paid, I think 1.5, 1.6, something like that. That's a lot of money for somebody who's giving you pretty much nothing.
Yeah. Well, same thing with Ryan Reeves. Like, he's getting paid 1.75, and
yes.
Yeah, he was not a great player last year, but this year he's done. Like, he's, as you said, like he just is not an NHL player right now. Like, he is way too slow. He wasn't the fastest player before this season, but this year is just he's way too slow. He's too lumbery. He doesn't know what to do with the puck when he has it, when he doesn't have it. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. Like, it's really tough. And again, the locker room loves him, and if that's what's true, then make him assistant coach. Like, it's not that hard to just be like, okay, you clearly can't play at the NHL level anymore. Just stand behind the bench and be a coach.
IR.
Like,
Phantom IR.
Put him on IR. Like, do something. Like, I don't, because you can't justify giving him a roster spot right now. And Jimmy Vesey, as you said, has looked solid. Like, he, at least for right now, has exceeded all of my expectations for what he could have been. Like, he's looked really good defensively, and he's been more involved in the offense more so than I expected him to be. Like, he has been somebody that's been a pleasant surprise for this team. And we were talking about him when they first announced the PTO, because we saw the body of work that he had prior to this season. I'm like, well, he's a guy. But now seeing how he's played on this team and how he's kind of been just a new sense of confidence that he's played with throughout the season so far, he's been a pleasant surprise. The bottom six, though, still needs work. Offensively, they kind of provide nothing until they're kind of gifted a goal. Like, Barclay Goodrow in that last night was literally gifted a goal. Like, he was just skating on by, and the puck just came to him right in front of the goalie, and he just so happened to score it. And, like, that was kind of the end of the game from there. The Rangers really need somebody in the bottom six that can be more dangerous in the offensive zone than what they currently have.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to pull up the shot map for the Nashville game as we talk about it here, because I do think this is interesting when you look at it shot by shot of who has the most dangerous scoring chances, where they are. This is to have 34 shots on 2 expected goals. That's like 0.004 expected goals per scoring chance, which is lower than what they typically do in a game. But you're looking at the heat map, and I know on the stream my mouse doesn't show up, but Gauthier missing the net, closest scoring chance. Trouba, closest scoring chance. Vesey, Goudreau, Kakko, Hedl. Where's Zibanejad? Where's Kreider? Where's Trocheck? I get it. Nashville isn't an awful defensive team. They are okay. And UC Saros hasn't played great this year, but he has shown you a strong body of work in the past. That was a maddening game for a variety of reasons, but I pulled up the shot map specifically here because this is what a lot of people talk about when they say the Rangers play too much east-west and they don't take it to the net enough. Is the best players on this team, when we talk about Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, they're not taking the puck to the net. They're settling for that 30-foot shot from near the top of the circles, the low danger chance. And without traffic in front, it's a waste of a shot. You're not going to do that. An NHL goalie is going to make that save on a 35-foot wrist shot if they got a clean line of sight on it. And that's why that game felt so frustrating, was they weren't working for it. They weren't getting quality chances. They settled for volume. And this is not a volume-based scoring team. Carolina for years now has been a volume team where they're going to have 48 scoring chances, and none of them are going to be great, but they're going to get secondary chances whether it be a rebound, a deflection, a greasy goal, the ugly ones that the people who stand between the benches are talking about during the game. The Rangers aren't particularly good at that, and it's why their offense can be so agonizing to watch at times, because there's not a plan when it gets ugly. It's just shoot the puck from as far away as possible and hope it goes in.
They are employing a type of offense that includes 17 passes, and they expect all 17 to go onto the tape of the next person's stick, and eventually they'll score some highlight reel goal, and everybody will go home happy, and the Rangers win again, and all the yada yada yada. Okay, well, you can't expect that to happen at 5-on-5 against anybody in the NHL. Even at 5-on-4, you can't expect it to happen every single game. This is the NHL. These are the best players in the world. Even if you are playing some of the worst teams in the NHL, these are still NHL caliber players. And you cannot expect to have Panarin passing it to Zibanejad and Zibanejad passing it to whoever, like every time cross ice, and expecting all these passes to just magically appear on their tape and it just goes in, everything goes well. Sometimes you just have to get to the dirty areas, take it to the net. Like Julian Gauthier does it all the time. If somebody like Zibanejad, who actually has hands and more than one move, can do it and shock everybody right now, because if it's not Julian Gauthier, no one's doing it. Like if Zibanejad or Kreider can use some of that strength that we know that they have, the strength that they have, the speed that they have, the skill that they have around the net to just get there and score a dirty goal that gives the Rangers the 1-goal lead, or tie the game, or do something that's not trying to pass east to west for the 18,000th time in that game that everybody sees coming. Like maybe they'd score more, but right now they are too predictable, and they are not adapting quickly enough to how the other team's defense is approaching their offense.
The last thing I want to say about Nashville before we talk about the Arizona game, Halak gave them a chance to win, and we talked about it last week with him. You need your backup goalie to give you a chance. To only concede 2 goals, more often than not, if you're a good team, you should be able to win if your backup's only conceding 2. It's nice to see he's getting a little bit better the more work he gets. Ideally, if he's going to keep playing like this, they'll be all right when he starts. But they got to put the puck in the net. That's the biggest thing.
Is it interesting to you that Gallant played Halak against Nashville as opposed to Arizona?
Again, we talked about this a few weeks ago when they did it the other way around, where they started Shesterkin against the same way, where they started Shesterkin against the bad team and Halak against the good team. It's trying to load it up, where especially knowing that it's a back-to-back and your team is going to be tired and you got to travel. I understand why you would start Shesterkin in that situation, because he's going to give you a better chance to win than Halak behind a tired team. And Igor gave them a vintage performance yesterday. He was outstanding. That game very easily could have gotten away from the Rangers if he wasn't as locked in as he was. I mean, they got dramatically outchanced. They got out puck controlled, and they won with the recipe they had last year. They got some depth scoring. They had a Fox goal in there, which helps when you can get a defenseman goal in there. But again, I'm going to pull it up. The shot map against Arizona, this is hideous. Look, the best scoring chances are 2 are Ryan Carpenter, 1 is Barclay Goodrow, 1 is Kakko, 1 is Zibanejad, 1 is Goodrow. I mean, where is everybody else on this team? I understand that Arizona was really doing a good job defensively and not giving a lot, and it's part of why the Rangers weren't generating a lot of scoring chances in that game, but to have 18 shots at 5-on-5 against a lottery team, especially one that doesn't have, like Jacob Chikrin is a decent defenseman, but aside from him, there isn't anybody on this Coyotes team that's
but they have Shane Gostisbehere. Come on, you gave Flyers legend.
We're talking about defense. Offensively, he's good. Offensively, he's very good. He's really good as a power play quarterback. They've got Dinelson Mayo, who's not awful. They traded for Valimaki from the Flames, who's not awful, but who just needs minutes. But this isn't exactly like the 2003 Devils here. To only have 18 shots at 5-on-5, man, that's just terrible. And again, I get it. You're tired. Everybody's tired. This is the National Hockey League. If you're given excuses like that, it's not acceptable. It's okay to say, hey, we got some bad luck. We didn't finish. Okay, that is reasonable. You can't say we're tired. We're hurt. Everybody is tired and hurt in this league.
It's like these shot maps are really like they're gross to look at. And you were right. Like these against bad teams, you should be in front of the net all game, for all 60 minutes. Like that, this should be your invitation to literally walk in and do whatever you want because you are the better team with the better offense and better players and better talent. To only have 18 5-on-5 shots and for the best opportunities to come from depth players, like there's one or two names that were in there that were in close, but at a certain point, those top six guys got to look inwards. Like you can't score all of your goals on the power play and then just walk home and be happy with it. You have to start scoring when everybody is on the ice. You can't live and die by the power play like they have been. And the top six, like Mika Zibanejad finally scored some 5-on-5 goals last week. Congrats, welcome to the party, Mika Zibanejad. Like they need to start being more of a force at 5-on-5 because if they don't start doing it soon, teams will start disrespecting them. They will start being like, okay, well, Zibanejad, Panarin, they're just going to pass it around for 45 seconds and shoot from 40 feet out, and we're just going to block it and go the other way. If they really want to be feared in this league, they're going to have to start driving to the net, creating more opportunities for themselves, because right now, November 14th, it ain't happening.
They're generating a lot of volume right now. Somebody needs to tell Trouba to stop shooting. That would be my first suggestion as to how to improve some of these on-ice results. I know we're just talking about overpassing, but the Trouba shot that goes in 1.5% of the time, that's not a valuable scoring chance. And unless you are already established in the zone and you have a decent chance at a recovery, that's essentially a turnover. And I know a lot of people don't think of it like that, but if you don't hit the net, the other team's probably got a better chance of recovering the puck. It's got to be on net. Otherwise, it's not worth that shot from above the circles. There's just not a lot to gain from that unless you have traffic. If you have traffic in front or you think you have a good chance at a recovery, okay. But right now, they're fighting it. They are pressing for offense, and it's why the offense isn't coming. It's very cliche. It's a very old school mindset of when you're pressing harder, you're not going to play well. Well, yeah, it's true. The harder you're trying to do something, the more difficult it's going to become. You're going to take bad penalties. You are going to squeeze your stick too hard. You're going to flub passes. You're going to flub shots. They need to keep things straight line, simple. More chances closer to the net, less only scoring on the power play. 5-on-5 goals are nice. Get the bottom six resembling an NHL team. And maybe if they can figure out that defense a little bit, I know they're going to keep insisting on Trouba playing because he's the captain and whatever, but if he's going to keep playing like this, they're going to need that third pair of Schneider and whether it be Hajek or Jones to be good. And granted, the last week and a half, that third pair has been very good.
And speaking of Hajek, because we got a tweet earlier from John Kavanaugh at Kavanaugh SJU, who asked, like, can Hajek be the third pair defenseman on this team? And well, if he's playing the way that he has been recently, my confidence in him is growing by the game. Like for all the negative things that we've brought up, rightfully so, about Libor Hajek and his game, the last couple of weeks, he's been solid. Like his skating, he's looked confident with the puck. He's put a couple of guys on the ice. Like he's been just confident with it and trying to get the puck out of his own zone and just been an actual NHL defenseman for once. Like he's looked good. Can he? My question with him and to answer the question that we got is like, can he continue to do that? If he can sustain this kind of confidence that he's shown that he's been playing with the last couple of weeks, and he can continue to do that at least to a certain extent throughout this whole season and not look like the Libor Hajek that we all know and quote unquote love, then yeah, I'm sure like he can be fine. But as long as he doesn't revert back to what we are used to seeing out of him, because the second he does that, he's out of the lineup. At least I would hope so. But right now, like, he's fine.
I mean, yeah, that's the way Gallant has handled the third pair the 2 years he's been here is as soon as somebody has a bad game, they're out. And until the other person has a bad game, they're out. that's realistically what it's been, and that's how most NHL coaches are, especially when it comes to younger guys. As soon as they might be building a little bit of confidence, they have a bad game. They don't play for a week and a half because the NHL is stupid and doesn't understand the idea of you need repetitions to get better, especially as a defenseman. We got another question in there that was about what they can do to improve. We said this last week, and unfortunately, unless they're going to trade somebody who's actually making money, waive Ryan Reeves or waive Sammy Blais, there are no solutions because they do not have cap space to bring anybody in right now.
Well, they won't waive Sammy Blais because that is still their prime, their biggest
Their project.
jewel.
That's their project.
Well, their project, but also that's still pretty much the jewel they got in the Pavel Buchnevich trade. Yes, they got a second round pick out of that, but in terms of tangible players that are currently playing, I forget if they who if they still have that second round pick or they drafted
I think they traded it.
They traded it away. Whoever, like that second round pick isn't currently on the ice for the Rangers. Like who is on the Rangers right now for them currently is Sammy Blais, a guy who hasn't done anything for them offensively. Yes, I understand. Like he is still coming back from the horrific injury he had last season. So he's not as fast as he potentially could be. But that doesn't affect your hands. That doesn't affect how you see the ice when you're out there. That doesn't impact your hockey IQ and how hungry you are to get to the dirty areas, to get to the front of the net, to score a goal. Like it doesn't impact any of those things. And I'm not seeing a whole lot from those areas out of Sammy Blais. Like, can he be faster? I mean, yeah, sure. But, you know, the leg injury that he sustained, like, it was horrible. And he's still, you know, game by game, I feel like, hopefully, he's getting more and more in tune with being an NHL player again after not playing for a whole year. But ultimately, leg injuries don't impact how confident you are with the puck on your stick. And if he doesn't start figuring it out soon, that's going to be a major problem for the Rangers because that's what they got for a guy that can score. You traded a guy who can score for a second-round pick and a guy who right now can't score. And, the Rangers are having trouble scoring goals. Oh, you know, if only somebody could have seen this coming.
Hey, man. We put in the work.
We're not GMs. What do we know?
We put in the work. It's just a matter if anybody wants to listen. Okay, before we get out of here, we'll do 3 stars of the week, and then we'll talk about the 2 games they play this week because they only play 2 games between now and next Monday. So 3 stars of the week. You went first last week. I'll kick us off. Jimmy Vesey, I mentioned him before. Pleasant surprise in the bottom 6. I didn't expect much from him. He was playing on a 4th line on a Devils team that finished 2nd in the draft lottery last year. To get anything out of him is a pleasant surprise. Adam Fox, thank you. We appreciate you. You're the one defenseman I know we can count on every single night. Ryan Lindgren getting there, but still, you know, not the same type of player as Adam Fox where every time he's on the ice, he's making the team around him better. He has the single best impact of expected goals of anybody on the team. Second is actually Filipino, which I found interesting earlier. And then I have Hajek third, just like you do. Hayek's been out good the last week and a half, and they really needed it, especially last week when Lindgren didn't play.
Yeah, and I have Libor Hajek for the same reasons as you do. He's been exceeding my expectations by tenfold. Like, over the last week or so, he's been a quality NHL defenseman, somebody that we expected to see for years and 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 years of Libor Hajek being a New York Ranger. And finally, after what feels like year 78, Libor Hajek has, over the past week, figured out how to be an NHL player. So that's really good. Hopefully he can continue that. Ryan Carpenter scored his first goal as a Ranger last night. Good for him. I mean, it's always a good story, and somebody who isn't, as we talked about earlier, I would hope to see maybe 9-10 goals out of him throughout the season. Hopefully he scores more. That first one, always the hardest, especially when you're on a new team. So good for him. And the Ranger dads, they gave us great content, especially as I tweeted out earlier this week. I wake up every morning and I thank Adam Fox's dad for being a Rangers fan, because that's the reason why Adam Fox is a Ranger. So thank you to Adam Fox's dad for that. They gave us some great content. They were fun. They read the lineups a few times, like the videos of them and all the questions and all that. Like that's always fun to watch, and it's good content. So they get a star.
Okay. Last thing before we get out of here. Only 2 games this upcoming week, and unfortunately, they're late games. The West Coast trip is the worst part of the season every single year. I'm too old to be staying up till 1 o'clock for a regular season hockey game, bro. Like, I might be in bed and awake till 1 o'clock, but to actively be committing brain power to watching hockey, to remember things, to write things down, that's a lot to ask for a game in November.
I mean, yes and no. Like, if you're somebody like me that always wakes up early in the mornings, but when it gets to the nighttime can't go to bed anyway, then those West Coast games are giving me life force. Like, giving me life force, because if not the Rangers, then I'll put on somebody else to watch. Like, I will watch LA play Chicago or whatever. Like,
But you don't actually have to care. That's the difference.
Okay, yes, but like, it's if it's a night game, if it's a late night game, it's a late night game. And Seattle, they're not the greatest of teams, but like, they come to play, and they're better than they were last year, which isn't saying a whole lot. But Philip Grubauer is at least not as bad as he was. So it's not going to be a hopefully a difficult game, but it won't be the easiest of
They're
games
not a bad
either.
defensive team. They're a solid defensive team. They don't score a lot. Their goaltending is not great, but they don't give up a ton of chances, which against a Rangers team that is content to shoot from anywhere, that might be a bit of a problem. I'm not looking forward to that. And then please beat David Quinn, just so I don't have to see his face. For the love of God.
Yes.
That'd
be great.
I dislike David Quinn immensely. Please don't lose to him twice.
Yeah, dude. If the Rangers go 0-2 against David Quinn, like, the presser will just be, please don't lose.
L plus ratio plus Boston.
Plus you fell off. Yeah, as we get a comment from somebody that says, I am 60, work until 10 often, love late games. And hey, see, like, so it's these late games, they got a cult following. Can I say that? I guess they got a cult following. It's not the favorite amongst a lot of people on the East Coast, but they have their devoted fans. And for some people, like, I like the late games, and maybe I don't care about, like, specifically a lot of them. I just put them on because I'm a psycho when it comes to the sport, and I will watch any game at any moment in time because it's the sport of hockey. But I do appreciate those late game nights, those late night games, because, like, once those 7 p.m. games are over, great, I can turn on ESPN Plus, I can turn on something else, and there's a 10 p.m. or a 10:30 game, and I could just watch hockey until 2 a.m. It's great. It's great stuff.
The last thing I want to say before we get out of here and get you guys going for next week, ESPN Plus on the Xbox app has a quad box feature where you can multi-box things in, and it's really the only reason I have an Xbox at this point. Like Andrew and I were talking about before, my Xbox is a $500 Roku stick, but I can watch 4 games at once on the ESPN app on it, so that's a very useful $500 Roku stick.
Hashtag not sponsored, promise.
God, if we were sponsored by Microsoft, I'd be wearing a Microsoft shirt, and the Xbox would be here on the counter.
That's right. Yeah, and just to put a pin on the whole defense situation, like, and we got a comment about this from Seamus, who's at Postum Notes as well. Like, the whole Zach Jones situation, dude, just sit Trouba for a week. Just sit Trouba for a week. Play Zach Jones. Let Jacob Trouba heal. Like, whatever he's got going on, I don't understand the point of having Jacob Trouba play 18, 20 minutes a night when he's getting worse because he can't heal his injuries. And 2, like, he's looked out of place quite frequently this season. Yeah. And just give him some time to get better and play Zach Jones. Like, do you really not have any confidence in Zach Jones? I'm not out here saying he's like Adam Fox or anything, but, like, I mean, is he really is a healthy Zach Jones worse than an injured Jacob Trouba? Like, I don't think that's true.
Okay, last thing before we say goodbye. If you guys haven't seen it yet, doing a raffle for one of my friends is having a tough time. They need a little bit of help. If you are so inclined and want a chance to win a large Artemi Panarin jersey for $5, all you got to do is donate to the GoFundMe that's pinned on my Twitter account. $5, send me a screenshot of your donation. You're in. We have 20 entries at the moment. The more the merrier. It's going to a good cause. It would really mean a lot. Even if you can't donate, signal boost it. Be really appreciated. Hockey community's been great. To get 20 alone is really nice. And the hockey community, when it needs to, can be very helpful.
Absolutely, it's important. Like Nick said, even if you can't donate, if you don't have the money, then just retweet it, share it with your friends.
Yeah.
This is we don't share these things unless they're important, unless they're necessary to do so, and this is important for us. So please, if you can't donate, then please share. Send it to your friends, send it to your family, whoever. As many people as we can get to see the GoFundMe, the better.
Thank you, Andrew. We will see you guys next week. Make sure you are subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcast. Please, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like the video. That helps other people find the video in the algorithm that watch things about the Rangers. That would be very helpful. Make sure to be watching every week. We're live most of the time live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Between 6:15, we usually start. Make sure to follow the personals at Andrew Chelney, Chelney. Make sure to follow me at Nick Zararis, Zararis. We'll see you guys next week. There's only 2 games, so if anything goes wrong in one of them, it's going to be a really, really frustrating week because nobody's going to shut up about it.
And we'll get to yell so that you don't have to. That way you can save your voice. That's so deeply we care about you. We appreciate that you've joined us for the ride. See, I've memorized this now. It's been how many episodes? I got it. We got it figured out.
That's good stuff. Self-referential
right.
stuff. That's building a brand, Andrew. That's good stuff.
Absolutely. Later.
I'll see you guys next week.